just phenomenal defensive efforts by both teams. They came to our place on February 15th and really defended at a high level. They were aggressive. They were tough. They took us out of a lot of things. Our guys were able to grind it out down the stretch and get some key stops. So we're going to need to be tough on that end first, the defensive end, to be our best, get our hands on the basketball, and then offensively do what we do, move the basketball, create actions for each other, create closeouts, and go finish.
How special is this stage?
It's awesome, man. It's great to be here in the Garden. It's something that our guys are really making the most of, enjoying. We want to win. We're really grateful for just the opportunity to be here so that we can take advantage of it. You got to be here first before you can win.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Sean Miller, what is the message to your team ahead of this Big East championship game?
Well, I think first is we're thrilled to be in the championship game. You know, I think it's a feat in and of itself to be here on the last day of this great tournament. We know we're playing against Marquette, who's the regular season champs. The two games we played against Marquette this year were both epic games. You know, one we won, one we lost. And I think, you know, the other part of our message is just, you know, do the things that make us a good team. You know, nobody needs to be any different than what got us here. And, you know, being a team on both sides of the ball and being ready from the opening tip to the final buzzer, this is going to be a high-effort game.
In a matchup of two of the best offenses in the country, how much does this game come down to who defends better?
Well, no, I think it's a great way of putting it. You know, our game in Milwaukee, which was the last game we played them, we were very, very good on defense, in particular in the first half. And we're hoping that we can carry that into this game. But the other part of it is when you play a team like Marquette, you have to be able to score yourself. So as much as it's about who's the better defensive team, you know, I think that, you know, just in general, who plays better today will be probably the champ. And
you can certainly score it. You led the Big East in scoring offense throughout the season. When you are walking into a championship game, how much does your faith just increase knowing I've got Sule Boom, I've got Colby Jones, I've got Jack Nungy on my team?
No, for sure. That's why we're here. You know, any team that advances in March, it's because of the players. And then many times when you look back on it, it's just like great performances. And I thought that the three that you mentioned have been outstanding in this tournament so far. And now the challenge becomes to do it on the third day in a row. And I do think Marquette's a little bit deeper than us. We have to be smart, stay out of foul trouble, and give everybody our best effort.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Here we go. Welcome back to Big East Shootaround. We thank both coaches for their time in the hallway ahead of the Big East championship game. It is time to look at keys. Just a few moments away, we will ask the insiders about their opinions. We've got Ben Steele from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. We've got Paul Frischner with his thoughts as well. But let's get to keys to the game here. Tyreek, your first stop.
Well, for Xavier, it's
Never mind. Vin Parisi, your first stop.
Vin Parisi will go first, folks. Taking care of the rock if you're the Musketeers. You got to remember this. Their comeback against DePaul, they only had 1 turnover. Versus Creighton, they only had 10 turnovers. Here's the issue, Tariq Turner and John Fanta. In the loss at Marquette, they had 17 turnovers. So I've deduced from my research this weekend that Sean Miller's club needs to take care of the basketball. Let's go to Marquette. You need to control the backboards. Why? 15 offensive rebounds the last time they played. One of them was a game winner. But Creighton only had 7 offensive boards. So Shaka's guys have really keyed in on gang rebounding. Those are the keys for both clubs.
I just went Frank Costanza on Tariq. I stopped him short.
Yeah.
You did. You stopped him short. You stopped him short.
It's all good. It's all good.
You're up.
By the way, he was born in 1995, and he just hit you with a Seinfeld reference. That's amazing.
He knows his history.
Yeah.
He knows
Come
his
on.
history.
Come
So
on.
my keys aren't so much tied to stats. It's more about themes and points of emphasis. And for Xavier, it's transition defense because Marquette plays with great pace. They want to make the game up-tempo. You got guys like Cam Jones pulling threes from the logo. He does a lot of that in transition. So they got to set their defense, make sure they get back with all 5, and slow down Marquette's transition game because they're very good when it's an up-tempo full-court game. For Marquette, it's about slowing down Colby Jones. And I'm looking at Omax Prosper and his ability to guard on the perimeter, versatile defender. What he did versus Hawkins at UConn is an example of the kind of versatility he brings defensively. And I put Kobe Jones on there, but it's really also Boom and Desmond Claude, because all three of those guys are very good getting downhill. Ball screen defense is going to be key, but Kobe Jones playing better than anyone in the tournament to me, and that's going to be the key guy to focus on. Can Xavier or Marquette, can Marquette slow him down?
Over the last 5 games, Kobe Jones has averaged 21 points per contest. He has been on fire. Yeah. And we often talk about, well, do they have an NBA player? Do they have an NBA player? Kobe Jones is playing his way on the radar.
He's Josh Hart. Hey, that's what he reminds me of.
Wow.
He's a Josh Hart kind of player. I can see him playing like that in the league. Does the little things, loose balls, rebounds, all over the floor. Can space the floor with the three. Really good with the mid-range. He's got the touch with the floater. And if he needs to finish with power and physicality, he'll do that too. About the same size as Josh Hart. He does a lot of the little things that help you win games. But when they need a bucket, he can do that as well.
I'll tell you one. I was texting with a Western Conference NBA scout yesterday, and it was interesting to get an observation from somebody from the outside. We've been so close to it. He said that Jones and Sule Boom are playing as a duo as good as any backcourt in the nation right now together.
Wow.
I agree with that.
That's high praise. Let's turn to another backcourt here as we look at impact players. Let's look at Tyler Kolek. Big East Player of the Year, Vin Parisi. In terms of this week, when Marquette has needed someone to make a play against St. John's, and yesterday, he is that motor.
No, he is, and he's the motor that makes Marquette go, and he does it in a variety of ways. We know he's going to start facilitating the offense, but even if the ball screen doesn't work out for him initially, this is where his game has grown over the past year and a half, because he's been such more of an offensive threat, especially off the bounce. He's become very, very crafty at using his body. His three-point shooting percentages have only increased. And back to Tariq's point earlier about what's going to be the difference in this game, I think you're going to see a lot of possessions in this game, because it's the third time of these two perimeters hooking up, to where it's going to come down to big shots late in the shot clock. So whether it's Cam Jones or Tyler Kolek, I think Shaka's guards are going to have to make big plays down the stretch.
We will get a look at another player matchup that we are zoning in on in this Big East Championship game between the Joneses, Cam and Kobe. That's coming up on the show, but as you take a look at everything Tyler Kolek's done, he and Sule Boom have both combined for 40 points in the 2 meetings between these two teams this season. And Sule Boom, fellas, the ability to fill it up and quickly, Tyreek Turner, can change a game.
Well, he's just great at reading the defense. He's a 3-level scorer. Even though he's small in stature, can finish over bigs. Big-time three-point shooter, can do it off the bounce or the catch. And his greatest skill to me, fellas, is his ability to ball screen, read, and get into the paint and make a play for himself or his teammates. He talked about making the adjustment. Watching film with Sean Miller based on how teams guard him, he can read and react, and he can make big plays. He's been their best offensive player all season long.
And you know what I love about Sean Miller's coaching offensively, guys, is his teams have never historically moved the basketball around the perimeter mindlessly without a game plan. It's always aggressive downhill action. And if they're able to get that tonight, that's when Sule Boom is at his best sometimes. As good as he is with the rock, he's just as good sometimes moving without the rock and spotting up on the perimeter with that deep stroke. And that's really when the Musketeers are clicking on all cylinders offensively.
We like to give you analysis. We like to make you feel smarter as well. It's our attempt to do so. Mike DeCourcy, Fox college basketball bracketologist, currently has Marquette as a 2 seed. As a 2 seed at 27-6. Xavier as a 4 seed. So something to monitor as well in this game. Hey, we also try to make you feel smarter because we consulted with 2 people who have covered these respective teams all season long. Paul Frischner, as well as Ben Steele, who's from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Let's get their perspectives here. It's Ask the Experts, Championship Edition.
Tonight, Xavier and Marquette will play for a Big East Tournament championship. And for the Musketeers, they are riding all kinds of momentum. Winners of 5 straight, they come into this title game off a 22-point win over the Creighton Blue Jays. But how did they do it? it was the defense. And we've talked so much this year about Xavier's defensive intensity. Sean Miller goes on and on and on in the post-game press conferences. Even when Xavier plays exceptionally well offensively, the point of emphasis is always the defense. But Xavier last night, they came through. They played phenomenally well on the defensive side of the floor, and they're going to need that tonight if they want to be lifting the trophy. On offense, Xavier continues to put the ball in the basket. You've seen the emergence of guys like Des Claude. We've seen better minutes out of Cesar Edwards. But at the top, it's Colby Jones, who has scored 104 points in this 5-game winning streak for the Musketeers. One of the most effective players in this conference, Colby Jones, has stepped up when the lights have been brightest. Him and Sule Boom in the backcourt have been just an incredible duo for the Xavier Musketeers. They will need both of them tonight if they want to win the title. The defense, the defense, the defense. These two teams split the regular season series, Xavier winning in Cincinnati, and then the Musketeers losing at Marquette in Milwaukee, but that was narrow. Sule Boom turned it over twice in the final minute of that game. Otherwise, we could be talking about a regular season sweep for the Musketeers over Marquette. We will see if they're able to correct those things. You know that that's going to be on the mind of Sule Boom here as we get into this game tonight. Xavier and Marquette, one team will be crowned a champion. We'll see if it's Xavier here tonight.
What's up, guys? I remember last month in Milwaukee, after Marquette and Xavier played their second classic game of the regular season, I remember talking to our Big East friend and colleague Adam Baum, the great writer for the Cincinnati Enquirer, and telling him, hey man, let's do this again for the title game at Madison Square Garden, and here we are. A couple matchups that I'm going to be looking forward to, Stevie Mitchell versus Sule Boom. Stevie doesn't get as much publicity as his Marquette teammates like Big East Player of the Year Tyler Kolek and All-Leaguers Cam Jones and Oso Ighodaro, but Stevie is just as integral to Marquette's success this season with his pestering defensive ability. He harassed Sule Boom into a couple critical turnovers down the stretch against Xavier at Fiserv Forum last month. That's going to be a spicy matchup. And then an obvious one, Oso Ighodaro versus Jack Nungy. Oso hasn't had the best few days here in New York City. 7 turnovers against St. John's and battled foul trouble against UConn in the semifinals. Marquette's going to look to get him going early, get him in rhythm, run that pick and roll that they run with Tyler Kolek and Oso Ighodaro. It's going to be a good one. Like the other 2 games earlier this season, I expect this one to go right down to the final minute. I wouldn't expect anything less from these 2 teams.
Back, everybody, to Big East Shootaround. We thank Ben Steele and Paul Frischner for their time on Ask the Expert. Hey, before we give some final thoughts, a huge thank you goes out to Bobby Mullen, to Ben Piasek, to Scott Hecht, to our entire crew, Chris Pierre-Louis, Eric Curtin, with our partners from Rush Media, all that they do as well. To everybody. We've had a number of different folks here. We have a number of students from Big East schools that also help with the production crew.
Listen,
people that have been working
phenomenal.
tirelessly.
Yeah. An amazing group of people, and most importantly, God bless these people for dealing with John Fanta behind the scenes this entire week in New York City, folks.
Not easy. It's not easy working with Fanta.
All I do is put baby powder on.
Yeah. And honey.
Correct. I have no comment on that. It's not in my notes. I'm sorry.
It's not in your notes?
I'm sorry,
Are you
sir.
a notes-based analyst?
Yes, sir.
Well, what have your final takeaways been about us spending an entire week together?
It's one of the most enjoyable Big East tournaments of my life. That's honesty.
All we do is laugh. I mean, literally. That's all we do is laugh.
Yeah, it's been fun. This has been a blast to be with you guys. Hey, one more as well. We are losing one of the great guys in Big East Conference history. He is somebody who has been so vital to building up the Big East Conference in the last decade to what it is. This is 10 years of the Big East since reconfiguration. It's amazing to think that. But over the last decade, Stu Jackson, in his role as executive commissioner with men's basketball at the Big East Conference, all that he has done is really amazing. And not only has Stu done a great job, his demeanor with coaches, his demeanor with officials, all the intricacies, folks, the challenging of his coaches to schedule in the non-conference, to build the conference's profile. More than anything, guys, to keep the march of the Big East going. I think of that Dave Gavitt phrase that's on our wall. Because Stu is that guy he's a unifier. He unifies the coaches. He brings people together. He has taken the commissioner job at the West Coast Conference. We wish him very, very well. Stu, on a personal note, you have meant the world to me as a mentor and friend, and I know you both would say he's had that impact as well.
100%. You couldn't have said it better, John, and it's a big loss, but wish him the best. This is a guy who's a mentor, a friend, kind of a psychologist to the coaches, a sounding board. As you said, perfect word, unifier. And it goes from the coaches to the ADs to the officials to the fans. And his leadership will be missed, but it certainly set the groundwork for a really strong and future-facing Big East Conference.
Yeah, and Stu's position does exist in other Power 5 conferences, but the credibility that Stu brought into this new-look Big East from day one with the head coaches and with the dynamics of moving forward, as a new conference, yet also having ties to so many of the schools and the programs in the New York City metropolitan area, Madison Square Garden. It was an unbelievable sounding board for the coaches and for the league.
Congratulations, Stu. We really do wish him the best, and we say thank you to everybody that's been on our crew. A final thought, a parting shot from each of you on tonight's game and a winner.
I think Xavier's going to win. I think it's going to be a close game. I just like the way Xavier is closing out games. I like their ability to score off the bounce when you have Kobe Jones and then you have Sule Boom. And then also Desmond Claude, who's really stepped up coming off the bench, a 6'5" guard. And then Nunji. I just think they have a little bit more explosiveness down the stretch. I do think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to come down to late game, late shot execution. Whatever team can do that the best is going to win.
I'll tell you, my assistant coaching scouting cap wants to pick Sean Miller and the Musketeers. The way that he's gotten them to connect on both ends of the floor these last couple of days is beyond impressive. I just think the basketball gods are going to be in the Golden Eagles corner, and I think that this is the week for the number 1 seeded Marquette Golden Eagles. I think it's the week for Shaka Smart, John Fanta, to cut down the nets.
It does feel like destiny, doesn't it, for Marquette? It really does. They have had the magical moments. They've won their last 2 games by as many points, 2 points apiece. When you typically do that,
and a lot of people will bet against them for that.
That's right, but I would say late execution has been on point, not just offensively, but on the defensive end.
Yeah.
This game comes down to one thing, like it has all season long for Xavier, is what version of Xavier's defense are we getting in this game? If they're locked in and engaged on that end of the floor, they're going to win this game because their offense is as electric, if not even more electric, than Marquette's. And you said it yourself, Vin. Backcourt duos. Sule Boom, Colby Jones.
As good as it gets. Yeah.
Xavier was this close to sweeping the regular season series over Marquette. They lost by a point February 15th. In the Big East Conference, you remember the losses more than the wins. You're hungrier to get redemption. Sean Miller gets handed a trophy tonight. Xavier wins the Big East tournament.
Oh, my. That's right. You can't stay with Creighton anymore.
Let's also remind you that,
Original
Vinny, you were
prediction.
over. So I just
You were on my Marquette train last night. I did notice that you
We
just switched it
flip-flopped.
up. You flipped a little.
but that I have a tendency to flip overnight because I give a little bit more thought to it.
You were more Xavier, but
Yeah.
you were thinking about giving Marquette the edge.
I think Xavier's bench, Robinson and Claude especially, those 2 guys, I think are going to add another dimension. We'll see.
Let it be documented,
Yeah.
John's still going with the Blue Jays.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
very good. For Tyreek Turner, for Vin Parisi, I'm John Fanta. Hey, folks, Fox has pregame coverage for you coming up after the World Baseball Classic, and then Gus Johnson, Jim Jackson, Christina Pink have the call for you, 6:30 Eastern Time. Anna Negron has the best national anthem in the entire world.
Talk to me, John
tee it
Fanta.
off. It is Marquette. It's Xavier. It's a top 15 showdown. It's 1 versus 2 in the Big East Conference. Where else would you rather be than New York City tonight? We will have post-game coverage for you at Big East MBB. For now, it's time to go dancing.
John, bring up the intensity, man.
Oh, here we go. Cabot's Patch
Is that the
back.
gift?
Cabot's Patch is back. See you after the game. game, folks.